So, Hare Krishna Prabhus, welcome to the seminar Srila Prabhupada, our founder-acarya. First of all, let's say together, Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Right. So, some of you have heard the rough version of this seminar as I was researching it last summer. Some of you haven't. So I'm just going to give it as though no one has heard it, because even if you've heard it, you're probably going to be hearing it in a little different way, hopefully a better way, because since April 2011, when I started the research, and then I think in May or June 2011 is when I actually started piloting, testing the research on the Hawaii-based Skype Sangha, courtesy Ramananda Prabhu. It was a little rough. It got better as things went on, and I learned a lot. And so let's just move forward as though everyone is here for the first time. And you're looking at the title slide if you have the visual in front of you. That's probably a better way to say it, Ramananda. Instead of saying video, just say visual. So, Srila Prabhupada, our founder-acarya, is the title of the seminar, and the subtitle below Srila Prabhupada's picture, celebrating Srila Prabhupada's preeminent position in ISKCON, as well as every Prabhupada follower's foundational relationship with him. So in the title and the subtitle, you have contained the two very broad aims of this seminar, is to help us connect, no matter who we are, what generation we are, where we are in the world, what we know, what we don't know, whatever our qualifications or disqualifications are, we are all primarily, foundationally connected to this amazing personality, our founder-acarya, who founded the ISKCON branch, as he put it in Chaitanya Chaitamrita, of the Chaitanya tree. So the aim is to help us deepen that understanding, deepen that connection, deepen that relationship, deepen our commitment to our founder-acarya, and finally deepen our love for him. So that's what the title slide is all about. Okay. Everybody is, well, I guess Ramananda Prabhu, I can just ask if there's any question just about that slide.
Any questions?
Pretty self-explanatory. Okay, and it's a famous painting. There's many versions of this painting. This is my favorite. So here we go. Okay, now we're going to go.
Actually, I can ask one question. How would you like to format this? Like at the end of each slide, you're going to see if there's any questions, or should we just be prepared at the very end if you'd like to make questions or comments?
That sounds really good. Let's see how that works. I wasn't necessarily thinking of that when I was refining my outline for today. You know, my adaptation. It's always different no matter wherever I go. I have to sort of fine-tune it for the audience. I didn't think of that, but I might invite. Okay, let's do that as a roundup of each slide. But I probably will be asking questions within the slide. You know, within the time that people are looking at a certain slide. So okay, that's a good idea for a roundup. Okay, so slide 2. Oh, you had that was your question, well, huh? Just about the format.
Yeah, just
okay.
Usually what we do is for Bhagavatam classes, is everybody kind of keeps in their mind if they have something, they'll wait to the end after the presenter is completely done. Whereas when we do readings, a lot of times the speaker will pause after like a section of a page or one or two paragraphs, say any comments or questions. So however you're comfortable, you just let us know.
But that's, I'll just keep my flow, but then I'll keep that in mind before I go to the next slide. Okay, so slide 2, lesson 1, introduction. There is Srila Prabhupada sitting at Bhaktivedanta Manor. I was just there at the end of March Amazingly enough, it was sunny and warm the last week in March in Bhaktivedanta Manor. Unheard of. Talk about climate change. And there's Srila Prabhupada in probably July, I'm pretty sure it was July, in 73, when our godbrother Bhargava Prabhu, ISKCON photographer at the time, took many shots of Prabhupada, and many of them famous, all different moods, with kids, without kids, very humble, very meditative, very happy, very grave. So here he is, smiling at someone or something, chanting on his beads. Excuse me. And what I'd like to do while you're looking at this slide is to identify the parts of the introduction. So what we do is, when we do the first lesson, I go around a room typically when I'm in front of an audience, and I ask everyone who they are, just to tell their name, where they're from, and just give one reason why they came. And very briefly, don't go on and on. The whole thing between name and place and why you came should take about 30 seconds. So perhaps we can do that today, but I'm just doing a little medley of the parts here of the introduction. And when we actually come to that part, we'll see if we want to do that. Then we're going to look at why devotees around the world, and we're talking, haven't been around the world yet completely. The way things are going, it looks like I'll be traveling with this for a few years anyway, but so far, wherever I've been, everybody wants this seminar. So why is that? What's going on there? That why people feel there's such a need for this? And then we look at why someone could say there's no need for this seminar. And then the next part of the introduction, we look at the norms that we normally adhere to in normal formal venues. And I've done this in different kinds of venues, but especially when we're in, classic classroom venues like at Bhaktivedanta College in Radhadesh or at the Mayapur Institute in Mayapur. We'll look at those norms, and then we'll perhaps adapt them to our virtual presentation here in the Hawaii-based Skype Sangha. And then finally, we'll look at how the parts of the seminar will flow. And then at the last thing we're going to do, depending on how the time goes, I'm going to ask the devotees something, and we can either do it on the spot or we can leave it for homework. So that's basically how it's going to flow. Okay, any questions while we're still on this slide? Lesson 1 introduction, Prabhupada sitting blissfully chanting at Bhaktivedanta Manor.
I'm good.
Okay. All right, let's go to slide 3. Okay, who we are and why we're here. So I purposely chose a very relaxed picture of Srila Prabhupada there. His leg is up, you can see his legs. He's smiling. It looks like he's making some kind of, his hand is kind of in a position where perhaps he's making some kind of light point. So this is not an interrogation. Although the slide has a question mark, and maybe I should choose a better picture because there's a question mark perched on somebody's head, some android's head or somebody's head. So it's not a heavy question. It's a very light question. So I think we have time. At least I have time. Ramananda, I was thinking at the minimum this class would go to, your time 7:30, so an hour. And we started late, of course. But I'm prepared to go up till 2 p.m. my time, which answers to 8 p.m. your time. How many people do we have on board today?
Okay, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 plus 19. So it's about 2 dozen because some of this is repetitive. Okay, so approximately 2 dozen. Okay,
so I think I'd like to open this up. Everybody, from what I understand, is individually muted. But if anybody would like to unmute themselves, identify themselves, where they are, just name, place, and just one reason why they decided to tune in today.
You know what would be more systematic is if I called on people, and they can either, it's completely voluntary, you can either answer or not, it doesn't matter, but just so that we can do this systematically, why don't we start on Skype, okay?
Okay, and remember the whole thing, that anybody's name, place, why they're here, shouldn't take more than 30 seconds. It's not a platform for speaking, it's just a brief ID.
Okay. Dangoli, would you like to identify yourself?
Hare Krishna, name Dangoli, originally from Lithuania, living in California. I met Yolanta 10 years back, and I was introduced in Prabhupada's teachings, and I love these teachings, and I am very excited to learn. It's like nectar for my head, for my answers to my questions. Is it good?
Thank you.
Thank you, Dangoli. Maharani.
Hare Krishna. My name is Maharani Devi Dasi, and I'm in Ka'au, Hawaii. And I'm listening because I love Srila Prabhupada, but I want to develop my relationship with him further.
Great.
Thank you, Maharani. Let's see, I can't tell if this is Chaitanya Jivan or if this is Madan Mohan. Chaitanya Jivan, are you there? Then is Madan Mohan there?
We had to plug in a microphone here. It's both of us. We're on one side here.
Okay.
You can hear okay?
We can hear you, Madan Mohan.
Okay. Well, we're here because anytime that there's an opportunity to hear about Prabhupada being glorified in a nice way, all devotees are always attracted to hear about that he's our life and soul. So Shreeshwar is doing such a wonderful service that people are naturally inclined. That's the reason that I'm here, and I think everybody else also likes to just hear about Prabhupada in proper glorification, and it seems like this whole seminar is specifically to enable people to glorify Prabhupada properly. So,
Jai.
I'm here because Madan Mohan has so much love for Prabhupada, he's purifying my house.
Jai.
Okay, thanks, Ru. Balabhadra Prabhu? He may not be able to get to his microphone. Kandita Prabhu?
Hare Krishna.
Mataji?
I'm living on the Big Island, Hawaii, and I'm listening to the seminar because first time I heard it was so much nectar, and I got so much out of it, and that I'd like just love to hear it again. I can never get enough of hearing Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kandita. There's Balabhadra.
Yeah, I'm not very computer savvy, so I had to figure out where my microphone was for a moment there. I wasn't sure what you were asking about, why I came to Krishna consciousness.
No. It's the name, where you're from, and just one brief reason why you're tuning in today.
Oh.
Brief.
Okay. Well, I'm in Boise, Idaho, and I'm tuning in because it's one of the few opportunities I have to get association outside of Boise.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks, Balabhadra. Okay, Yuglarasa. Oh, she might not be able to get to her microphone. Oh, I hear some pitter-patter of steps, probably walking over to the mic. Oh, well. Oh, here we go.
Hare Krishna. This is Yuga Rasa. I'm in Hawaii. First of all, I wanted to thank Srila Prabhu very much for this, for giving us such an opportunity. For me personally, I am here because I really want to, I never met Prabhupada, and I would like to establish better relationship with him through hearing, through devotees that actually have experience. And I want to thank you, Sureshwar Prabhu, very, very much for this.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so now we're going to switch over to free conferencing. Raghava Prabhu.
Raghava, Waimanalo. I've been waiting to hear this series. I can't wait to hear it. It's a must-hear series. I'm waiting.
Thank you, Raghava.
Narhari.
Narhari here in Waimanalo. Well, there's no limit to how deep our relationship with Prabhupada can go, and what a great format to drown ourselves in our relationship with Prabhupada. One reason, my second, is that it seems in our society we've gone a little adrift, where Prabhupada has slipped or slipping or apparently not in the preeminent position he should be, and that will truly weaken, possibly destroy our society. And then just relishing dear personal friend Sureshwar Prabhu in such a noble service of putting Prabhupada back in the position where he should be.
Thank you.
All right. Brihana Mahesh. Okay, they may not be able to get to their microphone. Radharani Mataji?
Sorry, I was on mute. Sorry.
Oh, there's Brihan. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Good morning. This is Brihan Naradiya Purana Devi Dasi on the big island of Hawaii. And I'm tuning in this morning just because I was excited to hear what Sureshwar had to say. I met him on Oahu not that long ago, and seems like such a wonderful devotee. And yeah, I guess I'm at that point where I just need to hear from people who I feel an affinity with, and that happens to be Sureshwar Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for your encouragement, Mataji.
Radharani Mataji?
Hare Krishna, this is Mahesh Prabhu.
Oh, Mahesh. Hare Krishna.
Hi, Mahesh.
Listening here, and yeah, I'm glad that I'm here listening and learning more about Srila Prabhupada. Haribol.
Hari.
Okay, let's see. Radharani Mataji.
Ramananda, why don't we say at this point, because time is marching on here,
Okay.
Unless someone has something new to say as a reason, maybe they can just say their name and where they're from. But unless there's something new, because they're getting a little repetitive. It's wonderful, but it's repetitive. They can just.
Did you want to say anything, or Rishabh Dave, or anybody else? Some people I can't identify here.
This is Madhukanta Das on the Big Island, and I'm curious about how this is being enacted in ISKCON in the present, with so many successor gurus, and how each temple or in general people are balancing having a Diksha guru and then having a foundational founder-acarya predecessor guru.
Good. Thank you.
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. Please accept my observations. This is Rishabh Dev Das. I had this seminar the first time around, and it was extremely beneficial, very wonderful. And in a way, I'm actually much more excited about hearing it again, because it's going to refresh my memory of what I heard, and also Srila Prabhu just said he's sort of refined it a bit, so it should be very interesting, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Hi, thank you. Ramananda Prabhu, where are you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was unmuted. I'm just talking to myself here.
I can hear you. I can hear your kitchen sink, too, or somebody's kitchen sink.
I'm sorry, that's me. I'm at the waterfall. I'll mute.
Okay.
Okay, so if there may have been some others here online that, but anyway, if you want to just continue, go ahead.
Okay, please forgive me if anybody was left out. In the interest of time, I think we just have to keep moving forward, but I know you're all here because you love Srila Prabhupada and you want to hear more about him. And as Maharani Mata said, want to deepen relationship. And one thing I can say is that it's wonderful to feel good and to be swimming in Prabhupada nectar, but even more than that, this seminar is really a call to action, as Madhukanta Prabhu was suggesting in his reason why he's here. And it's very important that we all generations of people in Prabhupada's ISKCON branch of the Chaitanya tree have a really deep understanding of his position as the founder-acarya, and that based on that, we're able to really commit ourselves in a very personal way, a unique way, to furthering his mission. And that when we do that, then we qualify ourselves actually to receive his mercy and develop deep, everlasting love for our founder-acarya, Srila Prabhupada. So, thank you. That was probably the best time I've ever had with this slide. So, and maybe it's because of this format. This format, virtual Sangha, has pros and cons. And I think that was one of the pros we just experienced, just looking at the slide and sharing who we are, where we're from, and why we're here. Okay. So now we go into the big question, not the biggest question, but it's definitely a question because you see, why do devotees want this seminar? Srila Prabhupada, by the way, is famously on Hippie Hill, 1967. The little boy looks vaguely familiar. I always know the eyes when I meet people after 20, 30 years, as happened in New Vrindavan, where I just was for the Festival of Inspiration. You know, it's always a changing bodies exhibit. I am and they are and everybody is. But the eyes being the windows to the soul, they don't change a whole lot. So I know that little boy. I would love to meet him again if he's still on this earth in his bigger body. And the counterculture refugee just past Prabhupada's face became a Swami at one point, Subal Maharaj. It looks like he has a Dutch boy haircut there. Anyway, Srila Prabhupada's playing the drum. He's calling the tune, and Krishna had him just in the right place at the right time. So, why do devotees want this seminar? Well, first of all, it could be legitimately asked, do we really need this seminar? For example, in 1994, way back in 1994, that's 18 years ago now, ISKCON's governing body commission passed a significant, I'm reading now from my notes, appropriate and timely resolution to establish Srila Prabhupada's unique position. And here's a couple of excerpts from the resolution. A, to fulfill the previous Acharya's desire for a united worldwide preaching organization to expand Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, Srila Prabhupada founded the International Society for Krishna Consciousness as a distinct branch of the Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya, Vaishnava Sampradaya. Therefore, he is the founder Acharya of ISKCON. Okay. B, now I'm reading from a GBC resolution, 18 years old. Srila Prabhupada is the foundational Shiksha Guru for all ISKCON devotees because he has realized and presented the teachings of the previous Acharyas of the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya appropriately for the modern age. C, Srila Prabhupada's books are the embodiment of his teachings and should be accepted as the standard by all future generations of ISKCON. And D, every ISKCON spiritual master is responsible for guiding his disciples to follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions. So that's one reason, ostensibly, that someone can say, well, gee, this is old hat. You know, Prabhupada, he's been front and center for a long time. He always was, he always will be. Someone could say that. Here's another possible objection. That especially since Prabhupada's 1996 centennial, we have experienced a renaissance in, quote, Prabhupada consciousness. Whoops. Ramananda, who's unmuted there?
Please, everybody, make sure that you're muted. Oh,
it's really distracting. Who is? Yeah. Can you identify the person?
I'm sorry. Hare Krishna, bro. Realize, could you please mute yourself? 1, 2, 3. I had to hang up on too bad.
I can still hear some. Okay.
No, I hung up on him. I'll send him a note. Maybe he'll figure it out. He usually is muted.
Okay, so we're on this point of people saying, hey, Prabhupada's already in the center, and especially since Prabhupada's centennial, we have experienced a renaissance in, quote, Prabhupada consciousness, and have refocused on his key priorities like education and varnashram community development. And even this year, we heard in North America, for example, that book distribution increased by 20% over the previous year, which is still way below what it was when Prabhupada was with us, and even just after he left. But still, somebody could say, hey, we're getting it, Prabhupada already is the center. And here's some very practical daily details that someone can say Prabhupada's the center. For example, in ISKCON temples, we have his daily Guru Puja, which he inaugurated way back in the early 70s, uniquely inaugurated. And this is for all generations of devotees, not just for his Diksha disciples. And everybody observes that. We have daily classes in his books, at least the morning class, and where people are really eager, the evening class, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and devotees around the world appear to be committed to maintaining his core programs like Harinam, book distribution, Prasad distribution, and it's popular to at least be pro Varnashram community development, even if somebody is not doing it. So someone could say this. So I would like to hear from whoever would like to unmute and speak up. What could be an answer to these objections? What's the need for this seminar? And then after we hear from the devotees in the audience, I have other reasons perhaps that they might not mention of why we need the seminar. Okay. Anybody like to speak?
Hare Krishna, this is Balabhadra speaking.
Mm-hmm.
My personal feeling why the seminars are extremely important is because one day the disciples and the grand disciples of Srila Prabhupada aren't going to be on this planet anymore, and we need to somehow or other maintain the correct history of how the movement began and why.
Okay, thank you, Balabhadra Prabhu. It sounds like what you're suggesting is that over the passage of time, you're speaking in a Diksha way now. Prabhupada's Diksha disciples, one by one, we're all, as you know, we're following Srila Prabhupada out of this world, literally. We're leaving this world. And it won't be too long before his grand Diksha disciples are following him out of this world. So that's certainly a legitimate concern. Thank you for that. Anyone else? Oh, excuse me. Before anyone else speaks, I didn't complete the thought. There's an implication there that Prabhupada's life, his teachings, his mood, and his mission is perhaps more in the hearts and minds of people who were closer to Prabhupada's Vapu in time than they may be in the future, because over time people may take more prominence in ISKCON than Srila Prabhupada in our hearts and minds. So we need to maintain that focus on his life, his teachings, his mood, his mission, his Vani, in a word, his everlasting, his ever manifest Vani. Okay, anyone else?
Haribol Prabhu, this is Mahesh calling.
Jai Mahesh.
You know, if you read Srila Prabhupada's books and instructions, is really right on. I think I have a little problem with just saying that Srila Prabhupada is the founder-acarya of ISKCON. Of course he is, but, you know, truly speaking, Srila Prabhupada is the savior of the world in the sense that he gave us the literatures and instructions and teachings by which we can get to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead as it is. And so to just relegate it to ISKCON is kind of minimizing Srila Prabhupada. And maybe I have here a problem with a lot of devotees that are perhaps were connected to Srila Prabhupada and now they may be in other camps like Gaudiya Math and others where they think, oh yes, we accept Srila Prabhupada, but also we read these other scriptures, we accept these other spiritual teachers. Well, you know, that is okay. You know, you can always take shelter of other gurus and you can take shelter of other people that can help you in your spiritual life. But in a sense, you know, the position of Srila Prabhupada really is preeminent in the spiritual world, in the spiritual teachings, not only in ISKCON, it's all over the world, and not only Gaudiya Math and in not only followers of Krishna, but in general to anyone that is aspiring to understand religious thought and religious philosophy. And I think here is where our challenge is for those who have understood the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, and our challenge is how are we going to connect with these people and try to get them to accept, understand, or at least read some of the books of Srila Prabhupada and accept him as a true bona fide spiritual teacher that brought the incomparable teachings of the Vedas to the world. I think that really is our challenge, and it starts by developing loving relationships among ourselves. So hope you can elaborate on that.
Thank you. That was really great. You took it to a new level, and definitely those points that you mentioned will be brought out in the seminar. It kind of reminded me of Prabhupada. Prabhupada was great with reporters. For one reason, he was so good with reporters is because, well, of course, he's so quick and witty and empowered by Krishna. But when Prabhupada was interviewed by journalists, he didn't buy into the game of that he's being interviewed by a journalist. He just saw everybody as Krishna's part and parcel, and so he was there to enlighten that journalist. So it was striking to hear him to hear his discourse with the press. So one time a reporter asked Srila Prabhupada, "How many disciples do you have?" And Srila Prabhupada said, "Everyone. Everyone is my disciple. Some recognize it, some don't." So that kind of echoed what you were saying. And this actually is a symptom of a founder-acarya. He's a guru of gurus. He's a master at whose feet all masters can sit. He's not simply one of many in a line, but he's so powerful, he's so pure, he's so transparent to Krishna that he is a real Jagat Guru. And that's a cliche, and that's misused and misappropriated by cheap incarnations and cheap Jagat Gurus. But he is really Jagat Guru. Because as we'll hear throughout the course of the seminar, what Prabhupada did by the grace of Krishna and the Parampara and his spiritual master, no one ever did before. No previous acharya, no avatar, nobody at all. So his position, as you say, is extraordinary. It's singular. It's one of a kind. And we are lucky enough to have him, Srila Prabhupada, as our founder acharya. But as you're suggesting, the our can be everybody's. That's how great a founder acharya is. That he is a savior of the whole world, and we'll come to that in lesson 3 when we look at the characteristics of a founder acharya according to Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, and tradition. So thank you for raising the conversation to a higher level there. That's great. Anybody else like to answer the objection that we don't need this? Prabhupada is already front and center in ISKCON, and what's the need for this seminar? Anybody else?
This is Madhukanta Das, and one thing that Prabhupada was expert at was guiding his leaders, and it seems now that there isn't, even there is the GBC, but there isn't so much maybe self-introspection by that body, and so it would be nice if there was some accountability to this idea of how preeminently is Prabhupada considered in ISKCON, and you said certain things are going good, and then other things aren't going so good. So it would be good to have some accountability. That was one of Prabhupada's main expertises, and
Thank you.
It would be good to have some feedback, I guess, from the leaders about how they think they're doing, or how they think Prabhupada would assess what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll mute myself.
Very good. And that'll, it is hopeful. As the years have passed, it is hopeful. For example, I'm presenting this seminar on behalf of the GBC Srila Prabhupada Position Committee. There actually is a GBC committee promoting this. And our first audience is the GBC themselves, as you're suggesting. It's a GBC committee, and the GBC themselves need this. And our committee recognizes that. And our committee is full of GBCs, gurus, swamis like this. So we're out to, we want it, not just us, but we see this committee and this message as being key to progressing or improving the ISKCON culture around Srila Prabhupada, because our founder-acarya is central to everything. He's central to our Krishna consciousness. He is the soul of our international society. So thank you for that, Madhukanta Prabhu. And you're exactly right. We need education in the heads and the hearts of everyone from the top down. Okay, anyone else could answer this objection of the need for the seminar?
I'll just sort of echo slightly what I said before, was that you mentioned that ISKCON was a branch of the Chaitanya tree, and it's essential that Prabhupada's position as a preeminent acharya remain, otherwise there'll be atrophy. As we've already seen, when the zonal acharya issue sort of came to head, we saw that there was a lot of problems in our society, and it seems when that was corrected, that it became healthier again. And we have to be certain that nothing in that direction ever happens again, and quite to the contrary, that we reestablish Srila Prabhupada. Otherwise, it's conceivable that the branch could die.
Yes, correct. And that's why we have a distinct new branch, because as Prabhupada spoke and wrote, his own Guru Maharaj started a branch, the Gaudiya Math, the Gaudiya Mission, but it effectively, as a mission, not individually, you can still go to India and find Gaudiya Maths. There's even one still in London, officially, or nominally. But as a concerted, organized, unified, coherent, cooperative mission, it became, as Prabhupada said, useless. So we don't want to repeat that mistake. We don't want to offend those who made the mistake, but we don't want to repeat that mistake. So yes, there's every chance that will happen unless we keep Srila Prabhupada, his life, teachings, mood, and mission front and center. That's where the vitality comes from. That's where everything comes from. Okay, so I think I better move along with this. And unless somebody is just so burning with something to contribute, they just will feel so deprived if we don't let them speak right now. Anybody else really chomping at the bit? Okay. I'm just going to add a few more things of what I've gleaned from traveling not all over the world, but at least around the world, Europe, America, India, Middle East. So far, here's what I've heard. That we need to see and know all acharyas, past and present, through the matchless lens of our founder acharya, Srila Prabhupada's Vani, his words, his instructions. As some devotee just suggested, there's no harm in hearing from others, but we have to measure them, test them against what we're hearing from Srila Prabhupada. He is our touchstone. Another reason devotees want this seminar, to more firmly establish our founder acharya's instructions as our foundational reference for selecting and serving our initiating and instructing spiritual masters. Bir Krishna Maharaj, who took my preview, my overview, my sampler of the seminar in Mayapur at what was called the ISKCON Leadership Sangha, the ILS Sangha. He didn't come for the whole seminar. He only had time to see the preview, but he came up to me afterwards. He said, "Boy, I'm really glad you're doing this, Sureshwar, because as I'm traveling the world, I'm getting a little scared because the people that are coming into ISKCON today, and they want first and second initiation, etc., their philosophical conviction is rather shallow. To me, it's very sentimental. People aren't really, they haven't even read the Lilamrita. They don't really know Prabhupada's life. They don't know his teachings. They don't know his mood, his vitality. They don't know his mission, even if they even know it is a mission, that human life is a mission, that ISKCON is a mission. So thank you for doing this, because it's really important that people be grounded by their intelligence. As Srila Prabhupada said to one godbrother of mine, understand Krishna consciousness by your intelligence, because intelligence is the next door neighbor of the soul. And when you understand Krishna by your intelligence, you will never leave Krishna. You only leave when you're just mental or sentimental. So we need to be so grounded in our founder acharya's life teachings, mood, and mission, so that we can select mentors who are going to enhance that foundation. They're never to replace the foundation. They're simply to enhance the foundation. And if they do that, then they can become very prominent in our lives. Whoever's giving me Srila Prabhupada's life teachings, mood, and mission is transparent to Prabhupada and the whole parampara. And that person's sangha I want, I crave, I need. So we need Srila Prabhupada's life teachings, mood, and mission firmly established in our hearts, and then based on that enlightened position, we can make informed choices about who to select as for Shiksha and Diksha Gurus. Okay, another reason the devotees are telling me that we need, they say, to recognize and follow the clear line of authority our founder Acharya established for his mission. And everybody has to cooperate with this clear line of authority. All gurus, all disciples, all GBCs, with which all masters and disciples must cooperate to please him. We can only really have cooperation if we're all on basically Prabhupada's page. There's a whole GBC committee about this. It's called parallel lines of authority. Sometimes I think it's a misnomer, because very often the lines of authority don't run harmonious or parallel or congruent. They in fact cross. They crisscross. They're at loggerheads. So Prabhupada, and not just Srila Prabhupada, but going back to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it was the Thakur and his son, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and our Srila Prabhupada, who knew that if we're actually going to take this mission around the world to every town and village, Pritivitayachayata Nagaradigram Sarvatra Prachar Haibe Moranam, as Mahaprabhu predicted in Chaitanya Bhagavat, that we're going to have to really do this in a mass, cooperative way, and everybody is a servant in this mission. There's nobody's independent, especially the ultimate managing authorities, the GBC. They are accountable, as Madhu Pandit Prabhu was suggesting, and we're all accountable to Srila Prabhupada's everlasting Vani. Srila Prabhupada is still very much in charge of this movement through his Vani. As he suggested, they will be the law books for the next 10,000 years. And Mahesh Prabhu, Prabhupada was saying that for everybody. That's another, remind me to get back into that when that line comes up. He didn't just say that for his disciples. He said it's the law books for mankind for 10,000 years. Okay, another reason the devotees want the seminar, they say they want the seminar should preserve and perpetuate the spirit of love and trust that our founder Acharya brought to his ISKCON Sangha. So we can only have love and trust if we're on Prabhupada's page, if he is our transparent via medium with whom we're cooperating and through whom we're communicating. For example, I've given this example before in and around Udupi, Karnataka, southwest India, from 93 to 95. And I saw, why has that line, that Madhva line, gone on for 800 years? It's because they're all so focused on Madhva. Every day they worship the seat. It's still there in the temple where he sat and gave Bhagavatam class, back in the 13th century, in the 1200s. And all generations of Guru disciples are just totally focused on his crusade, Madhva's crusade against Mayavad. And that's why they really like ISKCON, because Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Our founder Acharya, he's out to dispel impersonalism and voidism all over the world. So that's how it goes on. When all generations of gurus and disciples are focused on their founder Acharya's life, teachings, mood, and mission. And another reason the devotees say that we need to continually seek and find our unity as Srila Prabhupada's followers amid the vast diversity in his ISKCON mission. Lord knows we have so much diversity. I mean, people like the Madhvas, they're basically just in southwest India. Or like the Ramanujis, their capital is Sri Rangam. So they may have a Swami here and there, travel abroad, but they're, compared to ISKCON, they're relatively local missions. So if they see the need to be focused on their founder Acharya, as local and as regional as they are, how much more do we need to be focused on our founder Acharya? Because it's a worldwide mission, cutting across all kinds of ethnic, racial, historical, cultural, linguistic, you name it, lines. And when we all come together in Mayapur, where I teach 3 or 4 months a year, boy, that challenge is very apparent. So, in fact, we will come to a lesson where Srila Prabhupada even said in a letter that this is the reason he wanted, especially the leaders, but as many as could come, to discuss specifically once a year around Gaur-Purnim time, to discuss how we can have unity and diversity within the parameters of Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, and the Parampara, how we can celebrate and acknowledge and honor and accept and glorify everybody's contribution to spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world, based on Srila Prabhupada's life teachings, mood, and mission. And I did give a reference when I taught the rough version of this last year for a good example of how to do this and what it takes to do this, to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world amidst so many diverse cultures. Make a note of this if you have a pen handy. You look at Prabhupada's translation of Sri Chaitanya Chaitamrita, you go to the Madhya Lila, you go to chapter 23, you go to text 105, and you really get a good look of the challenge of taking Krishna consciousness all over the world. It's not the only purport where Prabhupada talks about this, but for me it's the best. And after you read the purport, you see, boy, do we really need Prabhupada's mercy to do this. Because the way we spread Krishna consciousness, for example, in America, or Hawaii, or Europe, or Russia, or India, or South, it's going to really be different. It's really different. According to time, Prabhupada, in this purport, CC purport, he says, according to time, the country, and the candidates. So, those are some reasons that we need this seminar So let's see here. Let me go to the next slide because we're getting into more question and answer time now. Okay, the next slide, it says norms for the seminar. Now these norms you're going to see on the screen, and there is Srila Prabhupada famously on his Vyasasana in New Dwarka, Los Angeles. Ramananda Prabhu immediately recognized it because that's where he joined. And there is Prabhupada with his shiny gong. You can see the gong reflected in the gong itself. So what you see as norms here, these norms are what we follow in very formal classroom situations. We're going to have to adapt these, obviously, for our virtual Sangha here. But let's take a look at them. Okay, we will attend the whole seminar and seat ourselves before the start of each session. Well, obviously, I can't insist on that because everybody's all over the world. But as far as possible, Prabhu, if you can sign in early, come on early, and then we'll all be, we'll have plenty of time. So that means, I know you can't control everything. We're not God, but as far as possible, if you can control your environment and your life, and we can all be singing together and just be on time. Okay. All right. We will refrain from side conversations using mobile phones and otherwise communicating electronically during the sessions. Okay. So as long as what's the adaptation for us? As long as everybody's muted, then we won't hear everybody's local situations in the background. So that'd be good. Next norm. We will refrain from borrowing strength from our status or position. This can get very subtle. Now, how it manifests in a live audience is that, there might be swamis there might be gurus, there might be GBCs, there might be senior devotees. Like I've been around somehow or other for 42 years in ISKCON. And I might be thinking, well, everyone should just accept what I say because I'm an old guy and I know what's what and blah, blah, blah. But that's not the way we learn. That's not the way we learn. And now, if I think I already know everything, then how the heck am I ever going to learn anything? So this relates to the next norm. We will value all contributions, whether or not we agree with them. So it's just a matter of respect. So we're all at different places on the Bhakti Marg. So some of our realizations are perhaps more refined than others. But even if we don't agree with someone, perhaps we'll find out later that, gee, that person had a valid perspective, coming from where that person was coming from. I can see what that person means. So we just have to look at issues, discuss issues, and not get into, personalities here. Okay. And this also relates to this norm. We will appreciate others' strengths and be sensitive to their weaknesses. And this is certainly consistent with a famous Chanukya shlok that Prabhupada would quote, if I can remember it. Can't remember it now. It's the definition of a learned person. Matrivat paradareshu paradravyeshu loshravat atmavat sarvabhuteshu yapashiti sapanditaham. 3 symptoms of a learned person. Matravat paradareshu means we see all ladies, or the ladies see the men. We see all ladies as mother. Perhaps the men can see them as a father, except our spouse. That's a learned person. And a learned person also, if they see somebody's property in the street, if they're learned and civilized, they let that person return and pick it up. They don't just claim it. And then atmavat sarvabhuteshu, we treat others as though, just like we want to be treated. The old golden rule, do unto others. So that's a norm. We will confront issues in behavior, not people. Okay, so that's sort of self-explanatory. We mentioned that. And here's a good one. We will be too busy glorifying Srila Prabhupada to criticize anyone else. Inevitably, in the course of the seminar, the mistakes of the past are going to come up. We note the mistakes. We learn the lessons from the mistakes. But we don't, especially us old people, we've been doing this for decades. So we got to move on. And we have to be the change we want to see based on Srila Prabhupada, his life, teachings, mood, and mission. So if mistakes of the past come up, fine, we can mention them, and I'll even do that too. Lesson, and that way our failures will be pillars of success. We will not be so busy taking notes that we will miss half the seminar. So this is for the live audience. People are buried in their notepad or their laptop. And what I do is I make each lesson available, not on the PowerPoint, but I can show you of course that will be available online if you want to hear the lesson and see the lesson by Ramananda Prabhu's grace. But if you'd like to see my outline notes, which often go deeper than the slides, and I have things written in the notes which I don't necessarily mention. So I can make those available. What you can do if you'd like the notes, for example, from this introduction, is to just email me, and it's my name, SURESVARA, Sureshvara, @gmail.com. Just drop me an email, and I'll be happy to send you my notes for this lesson. And we will each accept full responsibility for achieving our desired learning outcomes. So at the beginning, I asked people, just give me one reason why you've decided to tune in today. So it's everybody's responsibility to listen up, and if you don't understand something, to ask a question. And that's getting to what we have to do now. We have to let people ask some more questions. And I'm going to go to the next slide because time is running out. Here's the overview. I kind of hinted at it. There is a flow to this seminar. The sambandha is the first 3 lessons. Sambandha means you deepen your knowledge of the relationship. So we also have a foundational relationship with Srila Prabhupada. Some people don't even know that. Maybe they weren't educated like that, but we do. He's everybody's founder-acarya. So lesson 1, introduction. Next week on the 26th, Saturday, we're going to do not an exhaustive, but just a brief review of Guru Tattva. And then lesson 3, it culminates in the founder-acarya and how Srila Prabhupada exemplified founder-acarya to an unprecedented degree. So that's the culminating lesson in Sambandha. So based on that deepened awareness of Srila Prabhupada's position and our relationship with him, at least theoretically, then we can go into abhidheya. And there's abhidheya, which is the aim of the abhidheya portion is to deepen our commitment to his mission. So first of all, we take a look at lessons 4 and 5, what the mission is. What the mission is. It's a kind of a mini Lilamrita. And we use Mahaprabhu's horticultural metaphors here. Seed to buds, his ISKCON branch. And then we look at the great unfulfilled aspect of the mission. Varnashram, clearing the confusion, why there is confusion. And really what Prabhupada wants in terms of Varnashram. And then we look at our place in his mission, finding our mission in his mission. And so that's where abhidheya culminates. Hopefully we can have a deeper sense of who we are in Prabhupada's greater mission and commit ourselves to deepening our contribution to his mission, our service. And when we do that, we qualify ourselves to go into prayojana, to love is to cooperate, famous line from Prabhupada. And then just before we go into our individual relationship with Srila Prabhupada, we try to exorcise, we try to dispel clear, sentimental, and impersonal misconceptions about our founder-acharya and his position. And then, when hopefully we've cleared those misconceptions, then we can begin to talk about each of our authentic relationship with Srila Prabhupada. Okay, it's moving on. I think so there's the next slide, and that'll be the next week. At this point, I think it's a little late, not too late for questions, but it's a little late to do this exercise. But here's what I'd like to do. Everybody, just for your own information and for your own relationship with Srila Prabhupada. We did it a little bit in the beginning. I asked people to say why they're here, but I'd actually this is, I think, even more important. It's more on point for the seminar. In minimum of 25, maximum of 50 words, so it's not many words. It's a short paragraph. I'd like you, for your own benefit, to describe your relationship with our founder-acarya, Srila Prabhupada. Just do that. And then over the course of the 10 weeks, we're going to take a look at that again, and then at the end, we're going to do it again and see if our relationship has at all been affected, been changed at all, been sharpened, deepened. Hopefully it will be, because that's the aim of the seminar. So please do that as homework. And I'll give you an example. Here's an example, in case you're a little mystified by that. I thought of a statement that I could say. And it's very brief, and it goes like this. My relationship with Srila Prabhupada is not so much as his Diksha disciple, but it is as his Shiksha follower. Okay? That's very brief. I don't even know if it's 25 words. But that's an example. It doesn't have to be that brief, but that's a sample. Okay, for the next perhaps 10 minutes at most, because time is passing and this was introductory, I'd like, if people have questions, I'd like you to kindly limit your questions to exactly what the seminar is about. This is not the time to go off into issues. It's just, if you have any question about what we're going to be doing, where this ship is going out to the sea with Srila Prabhupada, please ask away. Okay, Ramananda, you can unmute.
Well, actually, everybody. I didn't mute anybody. Everybody.
Okay.
Unmute on their own. Okay.
One challenge of this seminar, and I run into this again and again and again wherever I facilitate it, is that because our relationship with Srila Prabhupada is central to everything about Krishna consciousness, the tendency is to want to discuss so many issues. And that's great. That means those are the seeds of future seminars. And in fact, I fully expect that the next seminar that I'll hopefully travel with after this will be, come out of this seminar. So it already has, actually, to be honest. Okay, any questions about where we're going, what we're doing, why we're here? And that's the whole purpose of the introduction.
Hare Krishna, Swareshvara Prabhu. This may be a little off topic, but you did bring it up. You said that nowadays there's devotees that aren't reading the Lilamrita, and I joined very late, like 1990. But I read the short version, he built a house in which the whole world could live, and I'm sort of excitable type person, so I would walk around and say, have you read this? This is wonderful. This is, I was just so excited to read it. And I guess in 1990, I've heard that was one of the worst years for ISKCON. I really don't know or have anything to compare it with, but the general temperature was, don't read those books. They aren't bona fide. They're incorrect. But I read them anyway. But I was just wondering if you consider them background reading for this seminar.
It's funny you bring this up. This Maharani, yeah. So
you mentioned it first.
Yes. It's funny. No. It's good. It's interesting you brought that book up, because when I was making this seminar, and I was thinking, gee, this is not for people who just walked in off the street. This is for people who have been in ISKCON a little bit. And I was thinking about prerequisites to take the seminar, and I was thinking that they should have at least read Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada's Gita as it is, and the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, preferably the unabridged. Because if you think the abridged is good, wow, there's so much divine detail in the unabridged, which I happen to have a hand in because I was part of the biography team. Certainly wouldn't hurt at all, because especially when we get into abhidheya, we'll be reviewing the Lilamrita in terms of the mission. But I'm not making any, prerequisites to take the seminar. But it really is not an introductory seminar. It's presuming some acquaintance with Prabhupada and some acquaintance with ISKCON, really. So, yeah. But thank you for that. I was thinking of that book myself for wondering about prerequisites. And one last thing, as far as that it's not bona fide. In the years since Satsvarup Maharaj wrote the seminar and the whole team, there was a whole team of compilers. We were basically feeding him material. Interviews and research and tapes and books and all the Vani that we could get our hands on. Things have come out details have come out that aren't quite historically accurate. Interestingly enough, as Srila Prabhupada points out in Nectar Devotion, we're all Rupanugas. That's another. We're Prabhupada-nugas in our branch, but broadly speaking, we're all also Rupanugas. Those are not mutually exclusive terms. Rupa Goswami mentions in his Nritya Shastra, the drama Shastra, that when the philosophy is correct, when you have the tattva right, you understand things according to Guru Sadhu Shastra correctly, and the rasa, the relationship is correct. And of course, the main relationship is das and dasi, that we're servants, we're not masters. Then the details are not as important. The history, this and that. So even though there are, strictly speaking, some factual mistakes, but on the whole, not only is the book bona fide, it's empowered. It's empowered writing. And in fact, when Satsvarup Maharaj, we would feed him material at Gitanagari, where, for example, he a lot of the time he was writing Lilamrita in Gitanagari, and we were living there. People like Shesha Prabhu and Kundali and I'm trying to remember, Mandaleshwara, myself. It was just many people had a hand all over the world. The archives, they were in Los Angeles at the time. We would feed him material. He would make requests for this section, this chapter, that. And then what would come out of his pen or his typewriter was so extraordinary. We were just struck with wonder. He would call us down the cabin for an evening reading, of the latest material, and it was just rough too. It was raw, but it was empowered. So, oops, excuse me, somebody just walked in the room. Okay, so sure, that would I think it would definitely enhance your appreciation of the seminar if also side by side. So even get a hold of the unabridged. It's a lot more detail in there, and that's where God is. He's in the details, and so is the devil. God and the devil are in the details, as the saying goes. But Srila Prabhupada, his mercy manifests so much more in the details. You get so much more of his life, his teachings, his mood, his mission when you read the unabridged Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I have a subject I hesitate to bring up. It is in relationship to the subject that you just discussed, maybe a little polemical, so maybe you don't want to answer this. But there was recently an incident in Honolulu where there was some devotees from another Sangha that joined with I'm hearing the second hand, that joined with the Harinam party, and they were distributing books from another Sangha, and then one of the prominent devotees said that that's not in good taste. You shouldn't distribute like that, when we're doing a Harinam. So they got upset and said that, you are stressing too much on Prabhupada. So right now you are kind of preaching to the choir, whereas those devotees that have joined other sanghas and it used to be and still think that they are fulfilling Srila Prabhupada's desires, at least that's what they say. And, of course, I would not agree. But anyway, you're more or less preaching to the choir right now. Mm-hmm. So how to get to those that need to hear this the most?
Well, you're right. We have two. I'm looking at my clock. I'm giving myself a 2 p.m. deadline. I have 1:58. It's 7:58 where you are in Hawaii. It's 8 o'clock. Anyway, 2 minutes. Yeah, it's not a 2-minute answer. If I say something, if I give a snap answer or a short answer, it's going to sound very glib. It's going to sound, whatever. It's not going to be a heartfelt answer. So why don't we save it? Because that kind of question will come up again, especially I think in the last lesson, your Srila Prabhupada. Yeah. I'll just say for now that if we really and truly accept in our heart, in our mind, in our body, in our spirit, that Srila Prabhupada is our founder-acarya, he's our deliverer, he's our life and soul, he's our savior, to use Christian terminology, we will see everyone and everything through his eyes. That's just how it works. Every day we say in Guru Puja, if we're singing the Guru Puja that he gave us, Narottam Das Thakur's song, Janme Janme Prabhu Se, he is my Lord, birth after birth. If we really mean that, that means he is our touchstone. He's the testing stone through whom we measure all teachings and all people. That's what it means. That's just the way it works. That's called being chaste to your founder-acarya. It's not called being sectarian. It's not called being fanatic. It's just bhakti sadachar. It's just Vaishnava behavior. So usually these kinds of objections come from just lack of knowledge and experience like that. So hopefully we'll deepen our knowledge and experience as the seminar goes on. That's it for today. I thank everyone so much for attending the introductory presentation. I hope it inspired you to tune in again. Same time, same station. Ramananda Prabhu, thank you so much. And what would you like to say, Ramananda, to sign off?
All glories to Shireshwar Prabhu.
No, right. That's not the purpose of the seminar. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai. Srila Prabhupada.
Is the next seminar Saturday mornings? Is that what it is?
Every Saturday, yes. 6:30 Hawaii time, 12:30 where I am on the East Coast, wherever you are.
Very good. Okay. I'm in Boise. Hare
Krishna. Okay, thank you, everybody. See you next week. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.